Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me quite clearly? Oh, fantastic. All right. Thank you very much for getting the last name correct. That's really sweet. Thank you very much for that.
Wait, yeah. I got that correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct.
That is the first time today I've got someone's name correct.
I was in the
Thank
army.
you.
I was in the army in the UK. I had to struggle with people mispronouncing it all the time. But yeah, hi everyone. My name is Einstein Ntim. The partner of the global startup ecosystem where we accelerate about 1,000 companies to the market each year. And we also organize global summits like the Ghana Tech Summit, Haiti Tech Summit, Space Tech Summit around emerging markets and in the US and the like. I'm also the founder of Enabled AI, where we build artificial intelligence to support and help people with severe mental health issues in the UK and soon across the world. Just to share a quick detail about myself, I actually grew up in the UK. I played professional rugby for England, and I stopped that to focus on my academics. Went to London School of Economics and got into investment banking, working at Deutsche Bank, UBS, and then in China and India at different multi-company, like large-scale organizations. And all that changed for me when I traveled to Silicon Valley to learn about exponential technologies at places like Singularity University and Draper University. And it was a great experience for me to help me scale my businesses over an accelerated pace. And I'm going to share with all of you here today about how to approach businesses in a very lateral and innovative way to achieve the goals you want to accomplish. So yeah, one of my favorite authors of all time is an author called Robert Greene. Does anyone know about him, Robert Greene? He's the author of The 48 Laws of Power, 33 Strategies of War, Mastery. And Robert Greene is an incredible author because he writes and gives blueprints as to how you can literally achieve your goals and then accomplish incredible things. But the great thing about Robert Greene is that even though he gives you all these blueprints and these devices to help you achieve your goals, he always gives you a caveat. And a caveat is an example of somebody or something that did not follow any of the rules, did anything haphazardly, and still accomplished that goal. And that's what I'm going to provide to all of you here today, giving you all a caveat, a lateral approach to accomplish your business goals. And my whole theme and my whole ethos is that innovation is the goal, technology is just a tool. To start off, even though I am British, I grew up in the UK, as you can tell, I'm not natively English, right? My family are from a West African country called Ghana. And Ghana had a significant role in the West African side because of an empire called the Ashanti Empire. And the Ashanti Empire was quite prolific across the West African side. And what happened, the reason why the Ashanti Empire was so incredible in the empire expansion was because they had set regions dedicated to certain efficiency processes. So they had a region as big as Estonia dedicated to fishery, another region dedicated to agriculture, another region dedicated to vegetation, and the region that my nation or my group are from, we were dedicated to warfare and growing of the empire. Of course, I would say warriors, I'm not going to say a fish, but it was incredible. So what happened was one of my granddad, 10 generations back, actually at one point said, look, this continuous empire expansion is getting too prolific, all right? When are we going to just start being where we are and growing what we have? So he also, at that point, almost like said he wants to form his own group away from that. And for those of you who know much about warfare and military strategy, if you ever depose or try to do something differently from what the king or the emperor suggests, that's almost declaring war on the emperor, right? On the empire. So the emperor or the chief sent about 40,000, people to go after my ancestor and his entire group of people. And what my ancestor did was he actually found the highest habitable point in Ghana, like one of these huge mountains, and he went there. And for those of you who know about warfare, if you have a high ground, you can fend off a huge army trying to come at you. But my ancestor had an issue. When he got to these mountainous regions, there were lions there. And these lions were like many lions over there. And if you go to my family home in the mountains, there's a book that showcases you that my ancestor went to this place of lions and went to the alpha lion and declared warfare on that lion. And he fought the lion, a mano a mano, beat the lion and made that his place and drove every other animal away from there. Of course, reality is a little bit different from that. I found out that what actually happened was when it comes to animals some animals like lions hate a certain type of sound frequency. So my great-granddad found out that, and him and his people built these like unique bells out of bronze. And him and like a few hundred people over the course of 6 to 9 months kept using these bells to slowly drive the lions away from the entire region. So very, very different from the story I grew up being told about. But he was one of the first people that I heard about applying innovation to achieve a goal and not being obsessed with the technology itself. But why is that all important for all of us? Can everyone see the picture in the slide? There's a picture about that right there is a memory card. 50 years ago, it would take about 6 people to carry a memory card, and it cost about $120,000 to get that. Within the space of 50 years, you could get 128 gigabytes memory card, literally at 1,000 times the cost of it, right? Even now, when you come to modern day society right now, you can get a terabyte of memory for $99. That's a trillion-fold improvement in what used to be the case. Why is this important? So far in our lifetime, if you look at all the advancements that have happened in human society when it comes to technology, many of them took place in the past 200-300 years. What's incredible about all of that is that it means that for us over here, we're going to see that type of growth and acceleration literally within 10 years' time or 20 years' time at the most. So how are you preparing yourself to maximize these growth in technology to achieve your goal? And one of my favorite slides is this slide showcasing how much it costs to launch a company. In the year 2000, it cost about $5 million to launch a legit, strong tech company. In the space of about 10, 11 years, you could launch a company for about $5,000. How much do you think it costs to launch a company right now? But €80. Beautiful. You can launch it for even a few $100s right now. And I mean a real company that's in corporate and doing incredible things. You can do that for a few $100s right now. So that applies not just to entrepreneurs who want to start, but also corporations who want to leverage entrepreneurship within that organization. One of my other favorite slides is they say that in the past, if it comes to do a video conference, and it'll cost you about $23,000. To get a GPS, it costs you about $100,000. To get all these things, it costs you about $900,000. How much do you think it costs you right now? You can achieve all of that with just your mobile phone. So that's how much access and power that we have right now in our lives. And my friend and mentor, Peter Diamandis, highlights as a good example of Kodak, the company that actually invented the digital camera. It went bankrupt in the year 2012. That same year, Instagram, with about 13 employees, became a billion-dollar company. What does that say for all of us? It means that the world is changing incredibly fast. Right now, the biggest hotel company in the world doesn't have any hotels, Airbnb. The biggest taxi company in the world doesn't have any taxis, Uber. And soon, the biggest banks in the world are not going to have any branches. Who used to do international calls a few years ago? Like when you had to go buy those cards and scratch it, right? And then dial in the number before you can make that phone call. Now you can call most people around the world on WhatsApp very, very easily for us. All right. And why is this important? I'm going to talk to you about how much just even mobile phones has allowed incredible acceleration, incredible growth for what you want to achieve. And if you look at Africa alone, you can see that the mobile phone growth market has grown drastically. Right now, it's about 80% penetration right now across the continent right now. How does that apply to you? Very simply put, I'll use myself as an example. At the LSE, while I was studying there, I used to trade on my phone on the financial markets, and I made about $40,000, which helped me pay for my school, all on my phone. As a father right now, I have a home in London and New York, and when I'm not there, I Airbnb my home all on my phone. With my businesses, GSC and Enabled, I have a team of about 60 people throughout the year, and I manage and handle all these groups and these networks all on my phone. If I want to get expert designers and expert people to help me support what I'm trying to do, I can use platforms like Fiverr and outsource all on my mobile phone. And it's very important because you look at examples like Africa, Africa, right? The youngest population in the world right now, and they're saying that literally for the next 30 years, you're going to require a city the size of New York to be built every 6 months. If you look at Estonia, even though it's a smaller nation, the reach can go very far. So the company Taxify, its biggest market is in Africa, right? Before they kind of said that, the continent was a hopeless continent, now it's a rising continent, right? If you look at example like Orange, the French telecoms company, which was about to go bankrupt, they went across Francophone Africa and began to leverage mobile money, and that allowed them to become a dominant force in the telecoms industry. Company like Kenya's M-Pesa, which now controls about 11% of Kenya's GDP running through that platform. These are things that are being done in 10 years and less time than that. So as you guys are working on building your companies, expanding your markets, it's very important to look at where the opportunities are. Very important. Another example is Google launching an AI center in Ghana right now. So people recognize this innovation taking place across the continent, but also across the world. So it's very important for you to look, okay, not just obsessed with the technology, but find out where the opportunities are and find a way to get involved. And you can definitely connect with me afterwards. I launched the Ghana Tech Summit, which is like the largest summit in West Africa. We had about 100 global speakers and 1,000 attendees coming through. Partying too hard last night, sorry. Now I'm going to talk to you about technology itself, all right? First, I'll talk to you about artificial intelligence. We all know how significant it's going to be in the coming years and how powerful it's going to be as a tool. In that picture, you see Google AlphaGo beating Lee Sedol, who was the champion at Go. Go is a more advanced version of, it's an more advanced game than chess. You need to use intuition. So AI has already found a way to use intuition and create its own steps in order to defeat champions at these things. How can that apply to places like mental health and other industries that you're involved in right now? Look at space right now. For those who don't know, we're already working on getting people to mine asteroids in space and bring resources back, launching nanosatellites, CubeSats, which now many people can get involved in at a drastic rate. Robotics right now. Let's look at a company like Boston Dynamics, which is building lifelike robots that are making a huge impact. I met a group of people yesterday in a bar who were saying they're building robots that can help do cleaning. How can you build robots that can help support nursing homes, mental health homes, and make a real impact? It's very important not just to think about the technology, but how it can be applied into actual steps in society. I work for a company in China called Supcon Group, and Supcon was a great example. They built this solar voltaic power plant, and what you can see in the picture is a water tank, which has mirrors all around it, and the sun shines on the mirrors reflect the sun's energy, hit the water tank, and produce steam, which helps turn turbines and create electricity. What's incredible about that is how can robotics support that situation? A company in China built robots that can clean mirrors, which now the company had to acquire to help support that process to make it possible. Autonomous vehicles. How can you get involved in that? Right now, the biggest autonomous vehicle company in the world is actually using developers in Kenya to develop artificial intelligence processes to make this possible. Genomic secret. Who came across the article in China about how they finally start to edit the genome of babies in the region? These things are realities that are happening, and although it can seem very intimidating, these are things you can learn about. I spent about a year and a half learning about AI and becoming a master in that process. So even though these technologies are very, very important, they're still quite nascent. So you can actually learn and become very advanced in them very quickly without being tenured by them. Of course, we got AI, AR, and virtual reality and the like. And what's very significant is that this example of a genome sequencing, which used to cost $100 million now, costing a few $100s right now, that is applicable across different technology mediums around the world right now. And of course, as you're thinking about frontier technologies, think about blockchain. People only reference cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and the like, but how can we use blockchain to really impact things like counterfeit drugs? How can we use it to impact land ownership and land rights? How can we leverage that to help voting within societies? So yeah, what I wanted to share with you was literally, firstly, looking at the opportunity first of all, then looking at the technologies and how you can use the technologies to address the issue and the opportunities right there. And I give an example. Can everyone see the image in the slide? We got spices there, right? When you think of Christopher Columbus, he went to the Americas to look for spices, right? Why? And you can answer the question. Why did he make that arduous journey to go to India, try and go to India or the Indonesian islands to find spices? Can anyone help me? He went there because at the time, the spice industry was the biggest industry in the world at the time. worth over $400 billion at the time. It was a huge market, and people were sacrificing themselves all the time to get to that region to get spices. And why? Because we needed spices to marinate food, and to preserve food, very importantly. But what happened? Within 10 years' time, something completely decimated the spice industry. Can anyone help me with the answer? What ruined the spice industry? Pardon? Salt? Anyone else? Ice. Within 10 years, a group of guys up in Vermont actually cut the first slab of ice, which helped to refrigerate products, right? And that completely decimated the spice industry, the biggest industry at the time, in less than 10 years. We're going to see that type of thing happening across different industries in our world right now, from healthcare to agriculture and the like. Another example I got is when I think of London, one of my favorite parts of London is Knightsbridge. And, when you think of London and the UK, you think of high culture. Hello, sir. Hello, madam. How are you? That kind of stuff. Can everyone see the image? What are those things in the image right now? That's poop. It's feces. At a time not too long ago, the biggest issue in London at the time was actually how we're going to handle all these feces and poop, horse manure, across the region and the borough. It was a significant issue that was actually highlighted like in 50 years, every street in London is going to be covered and buried in horse manure. And that industry was also a very big industry. It supported people who carried horses, cleaned these things up. But what decimated that industry? Cars. So as we highlight these things, it's very important to recognize that when you're approaching businesses, looking at the opportunity first of all, then looking at the technology and how you can address it. And I'll give a few examples of people who I've come across who are doing this in a significant way. Not too long ago, if you wanted to get involved in the space industry, it could only be a national service, a national group doing that, like NASA, JAXA for Japan, SANSA for South Africa, ESA for Europe, right? All that Elon Musk did differently was recognizing that these people would launch these rockets into space, it comes back to Earth and gets buried in the ocean and and he said, why don't we just recycle these rockets? And that helped them create a phenomenal company to address that issue and impact that issue. My co-founder partner, Christine, her innovation was looking at, if you look around the world and you go to emerging markets, and even in London and Europe, we have farmers markets, we have street markets all around the world, and sometimes the black economy is bigger than the mainstream economy, but it's completely ostracized, completely ignored. So all that Christine did differently was say, how can we bring that black economy or the underground economy into the mainstream? And she built a platform to highlight all these street vendors who are making these impacts. And right now her business is being featured at case studies in business schools around the world right now. My friends in LA, Sly, with a company called Emerge, people are doing augmented reality and virtual reality for a long time. And all that they did differently was say, we can augment these things and these visuals, but how can we touch them? How can we feel them? And by leveraging, again, experts from around the world to come together to look at how you can actually open source and support the process of being able to touch augmented reality products, you can make a big impact. And right now, they're being featured in incredible innovation around the world. Another friend of mine, Jason Dunn, got a great company called Made in Space. He was very new to the space industry, and literally, it's funny because he was new to the industry, but all along people were looking at how can we mine these asteroids in space? And the biggest issue was getting these industry equipment, these devices up there into space to do that. All that they did differently was think, how can we just get these 3D printers into space and print these devices and actually use them to support and bring these asteroids, these minerals back? And that helped him and his team spark a whole new conversation, which now has made them experts in that industry. And for me myself, I've applied that myself where there's an island in the Caribbean called Haiti. And in Haiti, there was a huge earthquake that happened not too long ago. And the earthquake killed about 250,000 people, unfortunately. At the time, the country leased satellite hours from NASA and ESA and JAXA for millions of dollars. And all that I've been doing differently was say, that money that was spent to lease these satellite hours, why don't you just build your own satellites and let it support the country over decades? So right now I'm actually working to launch a satellite in Haiti, the first satellite for the country, in June next year. Why is that important? look at the opportunity first of all, then look at the technology to address that issue and approach that process in a very lateral and unique way. And that's the message I want to share with all of you. Recognize that technology is just the tool and the goal is innovation. So you can all find me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Einstein Ntim on LinkedIn, or einstein@globalstartupecosystem.com. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to connecting with all of you, hopefully after this talk. Thank you.